So, artificial intelligence is becoming more and more autonomous. And yeah, it's completely revolutionizing entire industries. But here's the catch that same autonomy, it introduces some pretty significant operational and compliance risks. This means we absolutely need a solid governance framework to manage that risk. So, let's explore what that actually looks like. And that brings us to the central question, really, for any organization that's deploying AI today. As these systems get more and more agency, and as they operate with less and less direct supervision, how do we make sure they stay safe, reliable, and, firmly under human control? That's exactly what we're going to break down. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by digging into the core challenge, which we're calling the autonomy dilemma. Then we'll introduce the human in the loop framework as the solution, and we'll break it down into three distinct layers. And finally, we'll see how this whole framework gives you tangible proof that you're practicing responsible AI governance. All right, first up, let's really unpack the fundamental problem here. At its core, it's a huge balancing act. You've got the incredible power of AI on one side and the absolute need for precaution to keep it all in check on the other. It's kind of ironic. The very thing that makes AI so powerful, its ability to just operate independently in these really complex environments, is also its biggest risk. Without some serious supervision, we're talking about everything from skewed outcomes all the way to catastrophic system failures. Proactive management isn't just a nice to have anymore, it's an absolute necessity. So, what's the answer? How do we build that supervision right into the system? Well, this brings us to the human in the loop framework. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some technical feature. It's a core piece of responsible AI governance. Okay, so let's get on the same page. What exactly is human in the loop, or HITL for short? Well, think of it as a structured framework for plugging human judgment in at critical checkpoints. The whole goal is to have a person validate and verify what the AI is deciding, making sure the system is operating reliably and, of course, ethically. It's about meaningful oversight, not just sitting back and watching. And this is absolutely key. HITL is not some feature you just bolt on at the end. For this to actually work, it has to be woven directly into the AI lifecycle. Specifically, we're talking about phase 3 during model building and adaptation. When you do it this way, oversight is baked into the development process from the get-go, which makes it way, way more effective. All right, let's dig into the first layer of this framework. You should think of this as your primary line of defense against a flawed AI. We call it the pre-deployment gate. The idea here is pretty straightforward, but honestly, it's a game changer. Before an AI ever gets to touch live, real-world data, a human expert must audit its training data. The goal is simple: catch and correct any potential bias, weird anomalies, or quality issues right at the source. This one step is so crucial for preventing that classic garbage in, garbage out problem that can totally tank an entire system. Okay, so the model's out in the wild. Now what? Well, our supervision has to adapt to a live environment. And this is where the second layer comes in, the confidence threshold, which is all about managing risk in real time. This is where things get really smart. You want the AI to do the heavy lifting, right? So you let it handle the thousands of routine, straightforward decisions where it has a super high degree of confidence. But the second a case gets a little fuzzy, a little ambiguous, or it drops below a confidence score you've already set, bam, it's automatically flagged and kicked over to a human for review. This focuses your best people right where you need them the most, on those complex, tricky edge cases. Let's make this real with an example. Think about an automated underwriting system for loans. It can safely and automatically approve any application where its confidence score is, say, 95% or higher. But any application that scores lower than that, it's immediately sent to a human underwriter's desk. See? The AI does the bulk of the work, but a person makes the final call on the tougher cases. But what about when a decision is already made? What if it affects a real person? That brings us to our final and absolutely crucial layer, the appeal safety net. This one is all about accountability. This part is non-negotiable. If an AI makes a call that impacts someone, there has to be a clear, accessible, and human-led process for that person to appeal the decision. This isn't just good practice, it's a fundamental requirement for accountability. In fact, it's often mandated by regulations like the EU AI Act. It really is the ultimate safety net to protect both your users and your organization. So let's quickly recap those three layers. First, you've got the pre-deployment gate to make sure your data is solid from the very start. Then you have the real-time threshold to manage risk while the system is running. And finally, the post-output appeal to ensure there's always accountability. You put them together and you've got a really comprehensive supervision strategy. Now, putting a framework like this in place does more than just manage risk. It's really about proving you're governing this stuff responsibly. And that brings us to a concept known as the pillars of diligence. When auditors or regulators come knocking, they're looking for proof of due diligence. Think of it like 4 pillars holding up your AI governance strategy. You've got data lineage, testing and validation, and algorithmic impact assessments. But that 4th pillar is human in the loop itself. The evidence it creates, logs of every time a human stepped in, proof that a kill switch exists. This is undeniable proof that your company has maintained control and didn't just hand the keys over to the machine. So I want to leave you with this question. As AI just keeps getting smarter and more capable, is this whole human-in-the-loop framework just a temporary bridge, something we need while the tech matures? Or is it something more fundamental, a permanent, absolutely necessary feature of any truly responsible, ethical, and safe collaboration between us and artificial intelligence? Something to think about.